But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I picked up at the pawn shop recently. I got lucky at the pawn shop. It's just a crapshoot, you know. Sometimes you'll find something okay. This time I actually did pretty good. I got Tetris for the NES, the classic NES game, and Gradius 3 for the Super Nintendo. Now, we already have Gradius 3, and to be honest, it's in better condition than this one because there's a little bit of damage on the label. But you know what? I can't complain because I picked this up, both of them, for $7. They both work, so can't complain about that. I know that Gradius 3 itself usually goes for about $10, so it's definitely a steal, if you ask me. But like I said, we've already got a copy of Gradius. It's in better condition, but you know, it's always nice to have like a little backup copy, just in case if I want to take it to like another gaming store and possibly trade it in for store credit. Because if I can find it cheap and get better store credit, you know, you gotta do that. You gotta think ahead of the future and start thinking about what you want to do with your collection, and that would definitely help in the future. So, that's all of the old business, and the new stuff I got from the new gaming store, which I will provide a link to you guys down here in the description. They don't have an official page yet, they're working on it, but they do have a Facebook page, so you can check that out. I'll put a link to that down in the description. It's called 8-Bit Oasis, and they have got quite a large selection of retro video games. You know, they've got like Game Boy, Game Gear, all the old systems, NES, Super NES. I mean, if you can think of it, they've got things for it. And they've definitely got a lot more selection than what I was seeing at other game stores. So the first day I was there, you know, I was overwhelmed because they've got all of these games that I had been looking for and was just hoping to find like on luck in some of these gaming stores, and they had them. And they had the retro systems, decently priced retro systems. Like, I walked away that day with a working NES system with like all the hookups in one controller for $60. That's a good price. But on top of that, when you buy your first used system from them, they also throw in a free game, $20 or less. And because of that, I was able to pick up Ninja Gaiden, which, you know, it's an amazing game. It's a challenging game. It's one that I had played in the past and that I'd been looking for but haven't been able to find. So it's just like all the stars aligned for this one. I got myself an NES, which was what I was looking for. I was trying to go back, get the retro consoles, because what I had been using to play was the Retro Duo, which is a more modern console which allows you to play both Super Nintendo and Nintendo games. You know, but I was wanting to be more authentic. I wanted the real thing. So I was holding out for an NES, finally got it with a free game of Ninja Gaiden thrown in. You know, that's a hard deal to beat, because a lot of places they'll price gouge the retro games because they know that they're valuable. So it's nice when you can go to a store that's run by fellow gamers that actually know what they're doing and won't try to rip you off. And also, that day, I picked up Super R-Type for the Super Nintendo. Now, I played this game briefly back in the day, and it's basically like a Gradius clone. You know, I'm just gonna say it's like a Gradius clone. Specifically Gradius 3, but I would say that the graphics in this game are a good bit better than the graphics in Gradius 3. It's got a totally different weapon system. Instead of like choosing all of your weapons at the start of the game like they have you do in Gradius 3, you basically just start playing the game and they give you the power-ups throughout the game. And you start off with like kind of like missiles or lasers like as the default attack. And you can charge that up to be like a powerful laser blast, or if you keep charging up, it'll go through a second round of charging up, and it'll be just like this huge, wide-ranged attack that'll basically clear the entire screen for you. So that's a definitely a unique take on the space shooter. and I actually enjoy it. It's still a challenging game because if you get hit once, you're dead, and you have to start the level back over, even if you were on, like, the boss. So it's challenging in that respect, but it is still fun, and it's very nice to look at. The music was pretty good, too. I mean, I still have, like, a soft spot in my heart for the Gradius 3 music, but the music from Super R-Type, also pretty good. And like I said, it was $10, can't complain. It's a good game. It's a great game. So that was the first day. I got the NES, got Ninja Gaiden, and got Super R-Type. And I went back today to do a trade-in for store credit, and I took my Game Gear with the games, took my Game Boy with a couple of games. I think the Game Gear had about 8 games. Took the Retro Duo and the Sega Genesis adapter, so you could play the Sega Genesis games as well. Took all of that in, traded it in. Didn't get quite as much as I was hoping for because I do remember what I paid for a lot of that stuff. And I figured, you know, a lot of it would have been worth more, you know, specifically the Game Gear. I mean, the Game Gear did need some work done, but it was still functional. You know, just a few minor repairs, like the sound probably needed to be resoldered because it would only work if you had headphones plugged in. But the screen was still mostly working. There was just like maybe a line going down the screen towards the edge that would probably need to be repaired. You know, I don't actually know how much it would cost to repair that, but to me, the game system was still functioning for the most part overall. And there's a lot of Game Gears that just flat out refuse to work. And I know like the sound issue is kind of a common occurrence with Game Gears. But I thought that I would probably at least get, you know, a good amount of money for that. And I was mistaken. I got like $10 trade-in value for the Game Gear. You know, but overall I think I got about $65 for everything I took in. Which, when you're trying to save money towards buying games and things, you know, you can't complain too much. Because, I mean, I had the Game Gear for a long time, didn't play it anymore. I don't play the portable handheld consoles much because, you know, my eyes, they're not what they used to be, and my hands got bigger, so it's kind of harder on the controls. And you have to rely heavily on the lighting that you're in just to be able to see the screen correctly. And like I said, the sound's not that great either, so I just never played the portable consoles much anymore. And I didn't really ever get into the more current portable consoles either, like the PSP or anything like that. So I figured, you know, might as well just take it all up, trade it in for stuff that I would actually use. So I did that. And like I said, I got about $65 for the trade-in, and I put that towards a Super Nintendo. And Super Nintendo was about $80, you know, but that's not a bad price for a working Super Nintendo with all the hookups and an original controller. And again, because you bought like the used system, they gave you the nice little deal of free game for $20 or less. So for that, I picked up Gremlins 2. I don't have it over here with me because I forgot to pick it up. It's over in the NES right now, but I picked up Gremlins 2. It's a game that I didn't play, but it's a lot like the Gremlins 2 game that I had when I was a kid. I can't even remember what... it was for like one of the computer systems, like the green screen computer systems. I can't remember which computer system it was though, but it came with like a floppy diskette, and I remember just loading that thing up, and there's like the green screen, the gremlins, and you travel up the tower building, and each level you had to like take out the gremlins with the flashlight and everything like that. So that was the game for the Gremlins 2 that I had when I was growing up, so I figured, you know, go ahead, get the Gremlins 2 for the NES, because I had looked up a little bit about the game before I committed to buying it, and it was a lot like that computer game that I had. So I figured, you know what, I'll go ahead and get it, because really there weren't too many other games there that were $20 or less that I wanted to get, because the goal was to get a game that was closest to $20 as I could. And like I said, the day before I'd pick up Ninja Gaiden, and I couldn't really find any others that were that close to $20. So the Gremlins 2 was, I think, $17.99, so I just went ahead with that because the other games that I saw were like $10 or less, and I wanted to get as much bang for my buck as I could, since it was the kind of use it or lose it deal. Because originally I didn't think of any games that I wanted, and so I asked him, I was like, is this kind of like a use it or lose it kind of deal? And he's like, yeah. So I was like, alright, I'm gonna go look and see if I can find something, and Gremlins 2 it was. So that's the free game that I got for purchasing the Super Nintendo. Like I said, 8-Bit Oasis is really great with their deals. There's a lot of places that will sell you consoles that are just the consoles, not the hookups, not the controllers, just the consoles for like $40, $60, $80. And if you want to actually be able to play the console with the hookups, you'll have to pay extra to get the hookups, and that's really cheap. You shouldn't expect that of people, because, you know, you're anticipating that these people are going to have to pay more for the hookups. It's like selling someone a car without the car keys. What's the point? Well, I guess maybe they could hotwire the car, but that's not really something that you want to promote, you know, it's illegal. Okay, so yeah, Gremlins 2 was a free game that I got for buying the Super Nintendo, and on top of that, I also picked up Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Another challenging Super Nintendo game, but it's a fun game. It's got a really memorable soundtrack. I'm all about the music in these games, in case you can't tell. It's got a great soundtrack, it's got great gameplay, like the controls are really responsive. And actually, I just found out recently that, alright, let me start this over. I'd always thought this was called Super Ghouls and Ghosts because of the game that existed on the NES, which was Ghosts and Goblins. But, you know, it never made sense to me. It was like, well, why don't they just call it Super Ghosts and Goblins? And that's because that's not where the thing was coming from. You see, Sega Genesis had their own game of this kind, and that was called Ghouls and Ghosts. So this became Super Ghouls and Ghosts. And I just never knew about, like, the Sega Genesis counterpart, because, like I said, we didn't grow up with the Sega Genesis. And that's, now that I think about it, it's probably going to be a problem for me, because I do have a few Sega Genesis games now that I'm not going to be able to play, because, like I said, I traded in the Retro Duo with the Sega Genesis adapter. So, yeah, I got the NES and I got the Super NES, but now I have no way of playing the Genesis games. Which leads me to my next point. Sega Genesis is going to be my next thing to pick up, and fortunately for me, it's actually like the cheapest system to pick up, apparently. Or at least like the cheapest of the 16-bit game systems that they had. Because the NES was $60, the Super NES was $80, and I think the Genesis were $50, if I remember correctly. You know, but I was more of the Nintendo kid, so that's why I had to go ahead and get the Nintendo consoles first. But yeah, Genesis will probably definitely be coming here shortly. Maybe in the next couple of months. Who knows? You know, you gotta save up for Christmas to buy presents. So, it might have to come sometime in the new year. Who knows? But yeah, that was my haul over the past month. A lot of additions to the whole collection. Went back, got the new consoles, or rather, the authentic original consoles, and looks about maybe 12 or 15 games. I'm happy. It's been a very productive month in terms of my video game collection. So hopefully I'll be able to keep up this pace, who knows. But I will keep you guys posted as usual. Like I said, I'll be starting to make some more video game reviews here in the near future. I've already got a couple up from Alien 3 and Fantasia, so give those, you know, a little quick viewing if you so feel inclined. A little bit of humor and a little bit of me being stupid and kind of freaking out at the end, but you know, I got a feeling that's how a lot of these reviews are going to be going, because so far I've only reviewed like not great games. I don't want to say bad games, but they're not great games. Well, no, Fantasia is a bad game. Don't play that. Anyway, I'm Joe for the Wrong Channel. Have a great day. And get out there and game. And stuff like that. You know, because you use your thumbs when you game. Have a good one!